White. Burning. Artificial white. The sound comes next. A beep. Slow. Steady. Rhythmic. Not an alarm clock. A machine. Where is the window? Why is it so bright? Cold. A sharp, localized sting bites into the back of my hand. Tape pulls tightly against my skin. I try to move my right arm toward my face. The muscles refuse. They feel entirely disconnected from my brain, heavy and useless, like wet sand packed into skin. What time is it? What day is it? The smell hits the back of my throat. Chemical cleaner fighting a losing battle against stale air and old cotton. Antiseptic soap. I know this smell. I know the microscopic vibration of the fluorescent tubes humming above me. My brain struggles to sort the sensory data. The pieces begin to click together, forming a jagged picture. My name is Amber Holloway. I am a registered nurse in the emergency room at the community hospital here in Knoxville. I know exactly what kind of room this is, but I am always the one standing up. I am never the one trapped flat on the mattress. I force my eyelids open. The room is washed out and blurry. Acoustic pinholes dot the ceiling tiles. A brown water stain blooms in the corner above a blank television screen. I look down. My left hand rests on a thin, scratchy hospital blanket. The skin is pale, almost translucent in the harsh light. The blue veins map out clearly beneath the surface. And there it is, the scar. It is a thin, white ridge cutting across my lower wrist. 17 years old. I fell off my bicycle on our gravel driveway when I was 12. I remember sitting on the edge of the bathtub, pressing a wad of toilet paper against the bleeding cut. My mother walked into the bathroom, looked at the blood soaking through my fingers, and checked her watch. She had a women's ministry meeting at the church in 30 minutes. She told me it would heal on its own. She turned off the light and left me sitting in the dark. It did heal. But it healed wrong. It left a permanent mark. Soft, rubber-soled shoes squeak against the linoleum in the hallway. The heavy wooden door pushes open. A woman wearing navy blue scrubs walks in. She keeps her eyes on the clipboard in her hands before finally looking up at the bed. She stops moving. The clipboard lowers slowly to her side. "Oh, sweetheart," she breathes out. Her voice is far too loud for the quiet room. "You are with us." She hurries to the side of the bed. Her hands quickly check the plastic tubing. Reading the glowing numbers on the monitors I cannot see. I try to speak. My throat is coated in a thick layer of dust. "Water," I manage to say. It comes out as a brittle scrape of sound. She nods quickly. She pours a tiny amount of water into a plastic cup and dips a pink sponge swab into it. She brings it to my lips. It is lukewarm and tastes faintly of plastic, but the moisture is everything. "I am paging the doctor," she says, her warm fingers resting lightly over my cold knuckles. "You have been asleep for a while." My emergency room training kicks in. Assess the damage. Triage the situation. My body is failing me, but my mind is violently clear. I remember the sharp pain in my lower right side. I remember the emergency room admission, the appendectomy. It was supposed to be a routine surgery, a Tuesday morning admission, and I was supposed to be home by Thursday. I remember the anesthesiologist telling me to count backward from 10. "How long?" I ask. The words are slightly clearer this time. She pauses. Her hand stills on the blanket. Nurses hate giving timelines to patients. We are trained to wait for the attending physician to deliver the news. But she looks at my face, sees the wide-awake clarity returning to my sunken eyes, and makes a choice. 6 months, honey," she says quietly. 6 months. My chest tightens. My breathing stops for a fraction of a second. I went into the hospital in September. The leaves on the Bradford pear tree in my front yard were still green. The mornings were just starting to get crisp. If I have been asleep for 6 months, it is March. I missed Halloween. I missed Thanksgiving. I missed the first winter freeze. I missed Christmas, an entire half of a year, wiped completely clean from my existence, swallowed by an infected complication and a ventilator. Did my family? I start. having to stop to swallow the dryness away. Were they here? The nurse turns her attention back to the intravenous line. She adjusts a plastic clamp that absolutely does not need adjusting. It is the universal stall tactic. I used it 100 times myself when relatives asked questions I did not want to answer in the trauma bay. Your mother came regularly the first 2 months, the nurse says, her eyes fixed firmly on the clear tubing. The first 2 months. October, November. And after that? I ask. She finally looks up. Her expression shifts into a careful mask of professional empathy. Your sister came once. In October. I think. Once. I look back down at my left wrist. The white scar stands out starkly against the pale skin. My mother was right all those years ago. It did heal on its own. It seems I am going to have to do a lot of that. 3 days pass. The afternoon sun slants through the plastic blinds, casting long, barred shadows across the foot of my bed. I am sitting up now. The physical therapist has come twice, helping me stand, helping me remember how to put weight on legs that have forgotten the concept of gravity. I can hold a paper cup of water by myself. I am rebuilding my body. Cell by stubborn cell. The heavy door opens. The scent hits me before the visual does. A heavy, cloying wave of floral perfume rolls into the room. It is the scent of Sunday mornings, of polished church pews, and forced smiles. Patricia walks into the room. Her blonde hair is freshly highlighted, every single strand perfectly sprayed into submission. She wears a tailored beige blouse. When she leans over the bed to wrap her arms around my stiff shoulders, I feel the stiff, scratchy corner of a cardboard tag rub against the back of my neck. It is tucked inside her collar. She bought a new outfit just to come to the hospital today. Oh, Amber, sweetie, she says. Her voice carries that specific melodic pitch she reserves for public performances and moments where she needs to appear deeply moved. Nicole stands 3 steps behind her. My older sister is dressed in dark yoga pants and a loose gray sweater, smelling faintly of vanilla lotion and nervous sweat. Nicole keeps her hands glued to her phone, her thumbs constantly rubbing the edges of the plastic case. She looks at the blank television screen on the wall. She looks at the linoleum floor. She looks everywhere except at my face. My mother pulls back, smoothing the front of her new blouse, and sits down in the plastic visitor chair. She crosses her legs at the ankles. We are just so blessed, Patricia says, flashing a wide smile. The doctors did not think you would ever wake up. I told them. I said, you do not know my Amber. She is a fighter. She begins to talk about the weather outside. She complains about the terrible traffic on the interstate. She mentions that Nicole's daughter, Lily, just started kindergarten and is doing wonderfully in reading. I listen. I watch the smile on my mother's face. It is fixed. It is completely static. When bad news is coming, the smile stays too long. It becomes a shield against the truth. Mom, I say, cutting directly through her long story about Lily and the spelling bee. What happened to my house? The room goes instantly. Suffocatingly quiet. The only sound is the low hum of the air purifier in the corner. Patricia's smile remains exactly where it is. Sweetie, we need to talk about that, she says. Her voice drops a fraction of an octave into a tone of deep, manufactured sympathy. Then talk. You were in a coma, Amber. 6 months. She gestures toward the vital monitors, as if providing physical evidence for a claim I am disputing. The doctors said the odds were not good. They used the word vegetative at one point. I am here now. Yes, but we did not know that. We had to make decisions. The mortgage does not stop. The utility bills do not stop. Your car insurance. Someone had to handle it all. What decisions, Mom? Patricia stands up. She reaches over and smooths the edge of my hospital blanket, flattening a wrinkle that does not exist. It is the careful gesture of a woman arranging a stage before delivering her final lines. We transferred the house to Nicole. It was the responsible thing to do. The words land in the space between us, heavy and irreversible. My heart rate monitor ticks upward. the tempo accelerating into a rapid rhythm. My breathing grows shallow. My emergency room brain kicks in. Assess the patient in crisis. The patient is me. Triage the emotional trauma. Force the rising panic down into a tight, dark box and lock it shut. Transferred. She used the word transferred. Not sold, not given. Transferred. As if my home, the 2-bedroom starter house I bought with 5 years of double shifts and holiday overtime, was nothing more than a bureaucratic inconvenience on a piece of paper. As if the walls I painted myself, the floors I swept, the metal mailbox with my last name painted on the side, meant absolutely nothing. Nicole finally steps forward. She offers a weak, apologetic laugh that dies instantly in the cold air of the room. I mean, we fixed it up. The floors were in really bad shape, Amber. You know they were. My sister repaired the floors of my house. She changed my house. It was falling apart, sweetie, Patricia adds smoothly, regaining her natural rhythm now that the worst is out in the open. And Nicole needed a place for the kids. Craig has been out of work for 8 months. They were drowning in that tiny apartment. We had to think about the family. We had to think about the children. I do not scream. I do not throw the plastic water pitcher across the room. I engage the exact protocol I use when a drunk patient starts screaming in the trauma bay. Shut down. Become completely uninteresting. Show zero emotional bleeding. Gather the facts. Who signed the deed? I ask. I did, Patricia says, her chin lifting slightly in defense. With the power of attorney. You signed it yourself before the surgery. To protect your assets. My hands lie flat on the mattress, hidden completely beneath the white blanket. They are shaking. The tremor starts in my wrists and vibrates all the way up to my shoulders. I signed a financial power of attorney on a Tuesday afternoon, sitting in the hospital admissions office, because the clerk suggested it was a smart precaution for anyone going under general anesthesia. I gave my mother the legal right to pay my light bill in case I was asleep for a few extra days. She used it to give my life to her favorite daughter. I see, I tell her. Patricia exhales, a long, dramatic sigh of relief. She pats my covered leg. I knew you would understand once we explained it. You always were the practical one. And when you are fully recovered, we can talk about finding you a nice little apartment closer to the hospital. They stay for another 20 minutes. I do not remember a single word they say. I just watch the bright sunlight move slowly across the linoleum floor, tracking the passage of time until they finally walk out the door. That night, the hospital ward settles into its low, nocturnal rhythm. The lights in the hallway dim to a soft yellow. The chatter from the nurse's station becomes a muted, distant murmur. I press the plastic call button pinned to my pillow. When the night nurse appears in the doorway, I ask for the plastic bin holding the personal belongings I had on me the day I was admitted. She brings it in, placing the gray tub on the wheeled tray table over my lap. Inside lies my brown leather wallet, my driver's license, the silver key ring holding my house keys. The keys are useless pieces of metal now. Nicole would have changed the locks the very day she moved her husband and her children into my bedrooms. My phone sits at the bottom of the bin, a cold, dead rectangle of black glass. And tucked beneath the phone is the small, leather-bound notebook. My grandmother gave it to me on my 16th birthday. The leather is worn soft at the corners, from years of being carried in my bags. I pick it up. It feels impossibly heavy in my weakened hands. I open the cover. The faded blue ink of her handwriting stands out sharply against the yellowed paper. The house you buy will be the first thing that is truly yours. Do not let anyone take it. I stare at the words. Part of me already knows what to do. Let it go. Tell yourself Lily and Mason need a yard. Be the one who requires nothing and provides everything, the way you have been for 29 years. But another voice surfaces, a voice born somewhere in the dark, silent expanse of a 6-month sleep. They did not wait. They looked at my silent body and saw an open wallet. I reach for the charging cable. I plug the phone into the wall outlet behind the bed. The screen flares to life. I connect to the hospital wireless network. 6 months of spam floods the inbox. I type Knox County records into the search bar. One email appears, an automated notification from the County Property Assessor Office, a free alert I signed up for the day I closed on the house. I tap the email. Notice of deed transfer. I scroll down to the recording date. The deed transfer was recorded exactly 6 weeks after my surgery. 42 days. I had been unconscious for 42 days when my mother walked into an office and signed my home away to my sister. I closed the notebook. I set the phone face down on the tray table. The tightness in my chest, the rising panic that had been threatening to drown me since the afternoon, vanishes entirely. It is replaced by a profound, freezing clarity. They buried me before I was even dead. Now, they are going to have to deal with the ghost. 2 days later, I managed to walk from my bed to the end of the hospital corridor without the physical therapist holding my elbow. The effort leaves my legs trembling. My yellow hospital grip socks slide slightly on the waxed linoleum. I lean against the cold cinder block wall near the vending machines. The air here smells faintly of roasted coffee beans and stale corn chips. It is the quietest corner of the ward. I hold my black phone in my right hand. The battery is fully charged. I tap the screen and pull up the search browser. I remember Seth Kang. We went to high school together. We were not close friends, but we shared a locker bank for 3 years and suffered through the same chemistry classes. He was the only person from my past who posted a message on my social media page when I was admitted to the hospital, asking people to keep me in their thoughts. I also remember the gold lettering on the sign outside his building downtown. Real estate law. I type his name into the search bar. His office number appears. I press call and press the cold glass to my ear. A receptionist answers. I ask for Seth. She puts me on a brief hold. Elevator music plays, a soft piano tune that sounds distant and tinny. Then the line clicks. "This is Seth," his voice says. It is deeper than I remember. Professional and polished. "Seth," I say. It is Amber Holloway. A long silence follows. I can hear the faint sound of traffic through his office window. I can hear him take a sharp breath. "Amber," he says, "you are awake." "I have been awake for 5 days," I tell him. "I need a real estate lawyer." He shifts the phone. I hear the rustle of papers being pushed aside. "Okay. Tell me what is going on." My mother used my power of attorney to give my house to my sister while I was in a coma. The silence returns. It stretches for 4 full seconds. I count them in my head. I wait for the excuses. I wait for him to tell me that families are complicated or that my mother was probably just scared. I brace myself for the same wall of justification I have hit my entire life. "She cannot do that," Seth says. 5 words. He says them quietly, but they carry the weight of a concrete block dropping onto a wooden floor. I close my eyes. My back slides an inch down the cinder block wall. For the first time in 5 days, for the first time since I opened my eyes in that blinding room, someone is telling me that this is wrong. Not a misunderstanding. Not a family tragedy. Wrong. "I am going to need to see the original document you signed," Seth continues, his voice shifting into a steady, focused cadence. "I need the deed transfer from the county records, and I need to see you as soon as they discharge you." "I will be there," I say. 2 weeks later, the automatic doors of the hospital slide open, and I walk out into the thick, humid air of a Knoxville afternoon. I am officially discharged. I am wearing a pair of old blue scrubs my friend Jess brought me. Jess is an emergency room nurse who worked the trauma bays with me. When she found out I had nowhere to go, she cleared out her spare bedroom and handed me a key. My mother offered to let me sleep on her sofa. I declined. I take a yellow taxi straight to downtown Knoxville. I do not have a car anymore. Patricia told me she sold it to cover my medical deductibles. Seth stands up when I walk into his office. His office smells like old paper and very strong black coffee. He guides me to a leather chair across from his desk. He does not offer pity. He sees the exhaustion in my posture and gets straight to the point. He spreads 3 manila folders across the polished wood. "I pulled the county records," Seth says, "and I got a copy of the power of attorney you signed at the hospital admissions desk." He slides a printed page toward me. My shaky signature sits at the bottom. This is a general financial document, he explains, tapping his pen near my name. It gives your mother the authority to manage your affairs, to pay your bills, to keep the lights on and the mortgage current while you are incapacitated. I nod. That was the intention. But Tennessee law is very specific, Seth says. He leans forward, resting his forearms on the desk. Giving away real estate is considered a gift. Under the law, an agent cannot make gifts of the principal property to third parties unless the document explicitly grants that specific authority. He taps the paper again. Your document does not have a gift clause. It does not authorize your mother to give away a single dollar of your assets, let alone a house. I stare at the black ink. I hear the air conditioner humming loudly from the vent above the window. So the transfer is illegal, I say. It is voidable, he corrects. We can take this to court and have a judge reverse the deed. Furthermore, your mother acted as your agent. That means she had a fiduciary duty to act in your best interests. Transferring your primary asset to another family member for $0 is self-dealing. It is a massive breach of fiduciary duty. Seth opens the second folder. He pulls out a white envelope. Since you are not living at your house, I set up mail forwarding to this office so we could catch any legal notices, he says. This arrived yesterday. He slides a piece of paper across the desk. It is an invoice from a local flooring company. The logo at the top shows a cartoon man holding a wooden plank. I look down at the total due, $4,200. I look at the name on the billing address, Amber Holloway. Nicole had the hardwood floors replaced, Seth says quietly, and she charged the materials and the labor to a store credit account opened under your name and your social security number. I keep my hands flat on the smooth armrests of the leather chair. My sister did not just take my house. She did not just move her children into my bedrooms and hang her pictures on my walls. She stood in a retail store, gave them my name, and billed me for the nails she used to erase me. We are going to pull your bank records, Seth says. You are the account holder, so the bank has to give them to us. I want to see every single transaction that happened while you were asleep. I look up from the invoice. My jaw aches. I realize I have been grinding my teeth for several minutes. Do it, I tell him. An hour later, Seth offers to drive me back to Jess's apartment. I accept. The physical toll of the meeting is catching up with me, leaving my limbs feeling heavy and hollow. As we navigate the afternoon traffic, Seth glances at me from the driver's seat. We are only 3 miles from your neighborhood, he says. Do you want to see it? I look out the window at the passing storefronts. Yes. He turns the steering wheel, taking the familiar exit off the highway. We turn onto the quiet residential street lined with modest single-family homes. Seth slows the car as we approach my address. He pulls over to the curb across the street and puts the car in park. I stare through the passenger window. The house is gray. When I left for the hospital in September, the wooden siding was a deep, rich blue. I painted it myself. It took me 2 full weekends of standing on an aluminum ladder in the July heat, my arms covered in blue speckles, my shoulders sunburned. I chose the color because it reminded me of the ocean. Now, it is the color of wet concrete. I look at the metal mailbox standing near the driveway. The painted letters I carefully stenciled are gone. A cheap black and white sticker replaces them. Parks. My sister's married name. A red plastic tricycle sits sideways on the front lawn. A small pair of pink rubber boots rests on the front porch near the door. You okay? Seth asks. The engine idles quietly. She changed the color, I say. My voice sounds very far away, like it belongs to someone else sitting in the back seat. What color was it? Blue. I painted it myself. I look toward the edge of the property line. The Bradford pear tree I planted during my first spring in the house is still there. Its branches are covered in clusters of small white blossoms, the first sign of a Tennessee spring I missed entirely. It looks much smaller than I remember. Or maybe I just remember it being bigger because it was mine. Seth does not say anything else. He does not offer useless platitudes. He simply waits. Sometimes silence is the only correct answer. After 5 minutes, I look away from the gray walls. Take me home, I tell him. A week passes. The physical therapy begins to show real results. I can walk up a flight of stairs without stopping to catch my breath. I am eating solid food again. The hospital ward feels like a distant memory, replaced by the quiet routine of Jess's apartment. My phone rings on a Tuesday morning. It is Seth. I need you to come to the office, he says. His voice is carefully neutral. I know that tone. I used that exact tone in the emergency room, right before walking into a waiting area to tell a family their relative did not survive the trauma bay. I call a taxi. I walk into his office an hour later. Seth has a large spreadsheet printed on legal paper resting in the center of his desk. Red numbers fill the columns, marching down the page in tight, organized rows. He does not offer me coffee this time. He waits for me to sit down before he speaks. I got the bank records, Seth says. Checking and savings. Because you are the primary account holder, the bank expedited the request. I look at the red ink. How bad is it? He takes a breath. Layer by layer, he dismantles the last remaining foundation of my family trust. When you went into the hospital, you had just over $23,000 in your savings account, Seth begins. That money is entirely gone. I stare at him. That was my down payment money. That was the emergency fund I built by picking up every awful holiday shift nobody else wanted. I worked on Thanksgiving. I worked on New Year's Eve. I worked through flu seasons and staffing shortages. My hospital bills, I say, trying to find a logical explanation. My insurance deductible. Seth shakes his head. Your hospital bills were covered by your employer health plan. Your mother did pay your mortgage for the first 3 months, and she paid your utility bills out of your checking account. That was legal. That was the actual purpose of the document. But the savings account withdrawals are a different story. He slides a highlighter across a row of red numbers. She transferred $8,400 directly to a credit card company, he says. I trace the account number. It is a Visa card registered to your sister Nicole. I blink. The air in the office suddenly feels very thin. She paid Nicole's credit card with my money. Yes. Seth moves the highlighter down the page. Next is $6,800 paid to various hardware stores and contractors. That is in addition to the flooring invoice we already found. Total renovation costs paid from your savings are over $11,000. To fix up my house so my sister could live in it. Yes. He moves the pen one last time. This is the one that caught the attention of the bank fraud department, Seth says. 3 consecutive monthly payments of $1,200. Sent via wire transfer to a mortgage lender. I know that number. I remember hearing my mother complain about her monthly payments at the dinner table for years. That is my mother's mortgage, I say. The words taste like ash in my mouth. Seth nods. She used your savings to pay 3 months of her own house payments. With my savings. The money I saved. I stop talking. The emergency room nurse inside me steps forward. Cold and analytical. Assess the damage. Prioritize the bleeding. How much total? I ask. Seth looks directly at me. $23,214 over the span of 6 months. My car? I ask. Sold, Seth replies. $3,400. The funds were deposited into your checking account and then withdrawn in cash 2 weeks later. There are no receipts for the cash. I look down at the spreadsheet. I should feel victorious. The deed transfer is void. The bank records are devastating. We can file a civil suit and even send a criminal referral. But sitting in the leather chair, looking at the printed columns, I feel hollow. If my mother had panicked, I could have found a way to understand it. But you do not accidentally wire money to a credit card company. You do not accidentally log into a banking portal month after month to pay your own mortgage using your dying daughter's life savings. This is not panic. This is method. We can file the paperwork on Monday morning, Seth says softly. A quiet title action to get the house back, plus a civil claim for the breach of fiduciary duty. I push the spreadsheet back toward him. File it, I say. 1 week passes. The quiet title action and the civil complaint are officially filed with the county clerk. I am sitting on the edge of the mattress in Jess's spare bedroom when my phone begins to vibrate against the wooden nightstand. The screen glows brightly in the dim evening light. Patricia Holloway. I watch the name flash repeatedly until the screen finally goes black. 2 minutes later, it rings again. I unlock the phone and open my voicemail inbox. 3 new audio messages wait in the queue. I press play on the first one. "Amber, sweetie." Her voice is soft, coated in a thick, suffocating layer of maternal concern. "I do not understand why you are doing this. You have a lawyer sending me threatening papers. Please call me. We can sit down and talk about this like a family." The second message is left 10 minutes later. The practiced softness is gone, replaced entirely by a sharp, brittle edge. "Your sister is crying, Amber. The children are confused. Is this what you want? Do you really want to drag your own family into a public courtroom and take a home away from 2 innocent children?" The third message arrives an hour later. The pitch of her voice is much higher now, vibrating with absolute, righteous indignation. "After everything I did for you," she snaps into the receiver. "I sat by your hospital bed. I managed your complicated bills. I kept your entire life together while you were asleep. And this is how you repay me." I listen to the 3 messages back to back. The first time, my throat tightens. I picture Lily holding her stuffed rabbit, confused about packing boxes. The old reflex kicks in. I play them again. "The emergency room nurse takes over. I managed your bills." My brain translates automatically. "That means $23,000 withdrawn to pay your own mortgage and your sister's credit card." 3 messages. Not a single apology. Not a single explanation for the empty accounts. Just a demand for compliance wrapped in shame. The phone vibrates in my hand again. A new number flashes on the glass. I answer the call. "Amber," my father says. His voice is a low, tired mumble. Don Holloway always sounds like a man, trying his hardest not to wake a sleeping dog. "Dad," I say. "Please," he whispers into the receiver, the sound of a television playing softly in his background. "Your mother is very upset. She has been crying in the kitchen all afternoon. Can you just let this go? For the family." I look at the blank white wall of the spare bedroom. He is asking me to disappear. He is asking me to let them strip my life down to the wooden studs, so he does not have to deal with his wife crying in his house. I cannot do that, I tell him. I tap the red button and end the call. 3 days later, the private family battle becomes a public spectacle. I am sitting across from Seth in his downtown office, drinking a glass of ice water, when my phone buzzes with a social media notification. Someone tagged me in a post. I open the application. It is a status update from Patricia. It is set to public, broadcasted to our entire extended family and the massive congregation of her church. "Please pray for our family during this difficult season," the post reads. My youngest daughter nearly died, and when she finally woke up, instead of being grateful for her second chance at life, she hired a lawyer to sue her own mother. All I did was protect her assets while she was in a coma. I gave up months of my life to take care of her affairs. And this is the absolute thanks I get. I scroll down the glowing screen. 47 notifications. The comments stack up rapidly beneath her words. "I am so sorry, Patricia," an aunt writes. "Kids these days have zero respect," a woman from the church choir adds. "You are an absolute saint for putting up with this." Near the bottom of the comment thread, Nicole shares the post to her own profile page. She adds a single sentence above my mother's paragraph. "My sister is trying to take the roof over my children's heads." I set the phone flat on the polished wooden desk. 47 notifications. Not a single person called me to ask what actually happened. Seth looks at my face, notes the shift in my posture, and then looks at the glowing screen. He pulls the phone toward him and reads the post silently. "This actually helps us legally," Seth says. He folds his hands over his yellow legal pad. "She is establishing a public narrative that directly contradicts the written legal record. She claims she protected your assets. We have the bank statements proving she liquidated them for personal financial gain. We will document every single word of this thread. I nod slowly. The legal strategy makes perfect sense. But the brilliant legal strategy does not do anything to stop the burning heat rising in the back of my neck. It will not help at 2 a.m. when the heavy silence of the apartment presses in on me. Gratitude? I say aloud. The word tastes sour and metallic on my tongue. Seth looks up from his legal pad. What was that? She wants gratitude, I tell him, my voice completely flat. She stole my life savings. She gave away my house. She sold my car to a stranger for cash. And she is standing in front of the whole world, asking why I am not thanking her for the privilege of being robbed. A week later, the late spring evenings in Knoxville are finally warm enough to leave the windows open. The air smells of cut grass and charcoal grills. I drive Jess's borrowed car across town. I do not call ahead. I do not send a text message warning them. I simply park in the gravel driveway of my childhood home, put the car in park, and walk up the concrete steps to the front door. I knock twice. Patricia opens the heavy wooden door. For a fraction of a second, genuine shock registers on her face. Her eyes widen, and her posture goes completely rigid. But the mask slides into place almost instantly. The public, welcoming smile returns. Amber, she says, stepping back into the foyer. Come in. I just made a fresh pot of coffee. I step over the threshold. The house smells exactly the same as it has for 20 solid years. Roasted coffee beans and the heavy, sweet scent of an autumn leaves candle burning on the hallway console table. I walk straight into the kitchen. My father sits at the round oak table, a printed newspaper spread out in front of him. A black cellular phone rests on the table near his coffee mug, the speakerphone light glowing bright green. I can hear the faint sound of a television playing a children's cartoon in the background on the other end of the open line. Nicole is listening. I look at the silver refrigerator door. 7 framed photographs stick to the metal surface. I count them automatically. My sister Nicole is featured in 5 of the pictures. Her children, Lily and Mason, smile brightly in 4 of them. I am in exactly 1 photograph. It is from a family vacation 10 years ago, and I am standing at the very edge of the frame, half cropped out of the shot entirely. I turn around to face my mother. I came here tonight to do what I have always done. I came to give them one last opportunity to make it right face to face before the court system takes over completely. Mom, I say. My voice is steady, dropping into the low, measured register I use during medical emergencies. I am going to give you a chance to settle this before it goes any further. Settle what? Patricia asks. She pours dark coffee into a ceramic mug. I protected your house. You gave it to Nicole. Because you were dying, Amber. The doctors said the chances were incredibly low. They said low probability, I reply, watching her hand tremble slightly as she lifts the glass coffee pot. They did not say 0. And you transferred the deed exactly 6 weeks after my surgery. Not 6 months. 6 weeks. Patricia stops moving. The coffee cup halts halfway to her lips. She slowly lowers it to the granite counter. The sharp click of ceramic hitting stone echoes loudly in the quiet kitchen. You went through the county records, she says. My lawyer went through the records, I tell her, refusing to break eye contact. He also went through my bank statements. The atmosphere in the room changes instantly. The air grows dense and suffocating. My father shifts uncomfortably in his wooden chair, the legs scraping loudly against the tile floor. On the speakerphone, the cartoon audio suddenly cuts out. Nicole mutes her television. $23,000. Mom, I say. Patricia squares her shoulders, lifting her chin. My hospital bills were covered completely by my employee health insurance, I say, taking a step closer to the kitchen island. You know that. You signed the admission forms yourself. There were other expenses, Patricia insists, her voice rising in pitch and speed. The mortgage, the utilities. You paid Nicole's credit card balance, I state. The facts are cold and hard as ice in my mouth. You paid your own mortgage for 3 months. You used my savings to do it. Everything I did was for this family, Patricia shouts. She slams her open palm flat against the granite counter. I sat by your bed. I held your hand. I talked to the surgeons while your sister was falling apart and your father could not sleep. You are entirely ungrateful. My father looks up from his newspaper. Amber, please, he mumbles, rubbing his forehead. Your mother is exhausted. Let us not make this a thing tonight. I look at my father. He is sitting in the exact same slumped posture he held 17 years ago, when my wrist was bleeding in the bathroom. He is sitting exactly the way he sat 7 years ago when he borrowed my car and never bothered to return it. He looks down at the table. He chooses his own quiet comfort over my survival. A small, shaky voice comes through the speakerphone resting on the oak table. Amber, wait, Nicole says. I mean, Mom said the house would just go to probate anyway if you did not make it. She said moving in was legally fine. I look at the glowing green light on the phone. I look at my father staring intensely at his hands. I look at my mother, whose face is flushed dark red with righteous indignation. Something unravels inside my chest. I came here tonight because a small, desperate part of me still wanted to be loved by them. But giving them another chance simply gives them another opportunity to take whatever I have left. I look at the wall next to the refrigerator. A small framed photograph of my grandmother hangs near the paper calendar. She was the one who gave me the notebook. She saw me when the rest of them looked right past me. I turn back to Patricia. Her arms are crossed defensively over her chest, waiting for me to back down, waiting for me to apologize for upsetting her. I will see you in court, I tell her. I turn around and walk down the hallway. I step out into the cool night air. I do not look back when the heavy front door closes behind me. 2 weeks pass. The physical therapy finally yields real results. I no longer need to pause and catch my breath when walking up a flight of stairs. I walk the entire distance from my temporary apartment to the downtown legal district. The June heat in Knoxville is already thick and heavy, pressing down on the sidewalks. The air smells of hot asphalt and exhaust fumes. I am wearing a pair of faded green scrubs, the only clothing I own that still fits my diminished frame. I open the glass door to the law firm. The air conditioning washes over me, sharp and cold. Seth sits behind his desk. The office smells of freshly printed paper and the faint, bitter tang of dark roast coffee. A thick stack of manila folders rests in the center of the polished wood. My name is printed on every single tab. I sit down in the leather chair. We are shifting our strategy, Seth says, pulling the top folder open. The quiet title action is already filed and pending. But instead of waiting months for a trial date on the court calendar, we are sending a formal demand letter directly to the new attorney your mother hired. He slides a thick stack of stapled pages across the desk. This is the demand, Seth explains, pointing his pen at the bold text. We are demanding the immediate return of the deed. We are demanding that Nicole vacate the property within 30 days. And we are amending the financial complaint. He flips to the second page. I look at the new total listed at the bottom. $30,800. That includes the $23,000 from your savings, Seth says. It includes the $3,400 from the unauthorized sale of your car, and we are adding the $4,200 flooring invoice. She billed you for the materials she used to change your house. That makes it a documented financial exploitation. I stare at the printed numbers. We are giving her exactly 30 days to accept these terms, Seth continues, his voice completely level. If she refuses, we proceed to trial. Furthermore, I added a clause stating that if she does not settle, we will officially recommend a criminal referral to the district attorney for fraud and the abuse of a power of attorney. He leans back in his chair. He watches my face carefully. There is something I need you to understand, Seth says quietly. If she agrees to this demand letter, this ends quietly. The documents are signed, the property is restored, and the money is repaid. If she does not agree, it goes to court. Court means public record. Her church friends will know the truth. Her social media story falls completely apart. She will not agree, I tell him. How do you know? Because agreeing means admitting she was wrong, I say, keeping my eyes on the stapled pages. And my mother has never been wrong about anything in her entire life. Seth slides a black pen across the desk. I pick it up. The plastic feels cool against my fingers. Before my surgery, I signed a document in a hospital admissions room, giving my mother control of my life. That signature was an act of absolute trust. I press the pen to the bottom of the demand letter. I sign my name. This signature is an act of self-defense. It is the exact same hand, but the meaning has changed entirely. Every stroke of the ink is a declaration that I actually matter. Seth takes the papers back. He places them in a large cardboard envelope. It goes out via certified mail this afternoon, he says. I walk out of his office and step back onto the hot sidewalk. The midday sun beats down on the pavement. I stand near the edge of the street, waiting for the traffic light to change. For the first time in 9 months, for the first time since they put the anesthesia mask over my face, I feel a strange sensation in my chest. It is not happiness. It is simply lightness. I feel like I just set down a massive weight I carried for 29 years without ever realizing I was holding it. 28 days later, I am sitting on the edge of the mattress in the spare bedroom. My phone rings. We received a response, Seth says through the speaker. Her attorney just sent over a counter-proposal. Read it to me, I say. Your mother is willing to have Nicole transfer the deed back to you. Seth reads. However, she has 3 conditions. First, you must reimburse Nicole $11,000 for the renovations she performed. Second, you must drop the breach of fiduciary duty claim regarding the missing savings entirely. Third, you must sign a non-disclosure agreement and waive any right to a criminal referral. I look out the bedroom window. The afternoon sky is gray and overcast. What do you think? Seth asks. I think she still does not understand, I tell him. Understand what? That I am not negotiating, I reply. My voice is calm. The deed was void the very day she signed it. The money she took from my savings account was theft, and the floors Nicole installed while I was in a coma. I pause, remembering the white invoice resting on his desk. She billed me for those. I am not paying for the nails they used to erase me. Tell them no, I say. I will send the rejection right now, Seth says. What is our counteroffer? Full deed restoration, I answer. Full financial repayment of the $30,800 and a written acknowledgement that she violated the power of attorney. Give them 48 hours. Seth sends the demands. 6 hours later, my phone rings again. Her lawyer rejected it, Seth says. I will see you at the courthouse. 6 weeks pass. The oppressive heat of August settles heavily over the city. I walk through the heavy glass doors of the Knox County Chancery Court. The air conditioning inside the massive building is cranked high, raising goosebumps on my bare arms. My footsteps echo loudly against the polished stone floors. The hallway smells of old oak benches, floor wax, and industrial carpet cleaner. I sit on a wooden bench on the right side of the wide corridor. Seth sits next to me, his briefcase resting on his knees. On the left side of the hallway, sitting 20 feet away, is my family. My father stares down at the marble tiles between his worn leather shoes. Nicole keeps her head down, her thumbs rapidly tapping the screen of her phone. Patricia sits perfectly straight. Her makeup is flawless. She wears a brand new navy blue blazer. She stares directly at the heavy wooden doors of the courtroom, refusing to look in my direction. A tall man in a gray suit walks out of the courtroom. It is the attorney, representing my mother. He approaches Seth. They step away from the benches, speaking in low, hushed tones near the water fountain. 5 minutes later, Seth walks back to my bench. He sits down. Her lawyer just asked for a settlement conference, Seth whispers. He just saw the bank records. All of them. He saw the spreadsheet detailing the $23,000. He saw the flooring invoice. I look at Seth. Did he not know? I do not think she told him the full truth, Seth replies softly. Clients lie to their lawyers all the time, to look like the victim. He thought this was a simple family misunderstanding over a property title. He did not know about the systematic financial withdrawals. Now that he has seen the paper trail, he knows that if a judge looks at this, she is looking at massive civil damages and a very real threat of criminal prosecution. He is advising her to settle immediately. I look across the hallway. Patricia's attorney is leaning down, speaking quietly into her ear. He points to a stack of papers in his folder. Patricia's face tightens. The perfectly crafted public smile finally slips. She stands up. She smooths the front of her new blazer. She walks across the wide stone hallway, leaving her attorney behind. She stops 3 feet in front of me. For the first time since the night in her kitchen, we are standing face to face. "You are really going to do this," she says. Her voice is a harsh, vibrating whisper. "You are going to drag us in front of a judge." "Yes," I say. I do not stand up. I look directly into her eyes. "I am your mother, Amber." "You are. And you stole from me." "I saved your affairs," she hisses, stepping closer. "I kept this family afloat." "You paid Nicole's credit card," I reply, my voice carrying clearly in the echoing hallway. "You paid your own mortgage. You sold my car to a stranger for cash." Patricia's jaw clenches tight. The church smile is completely gone, replaced by a deep, defensive rage. "I was under enormous stress. You have absolutely no idea what it is like watching your child lay in a hospital bed attached to machines." "Actually, I do," I tell her. I say the words, and I hear myself speaking them. It is not the woman who spent 29 years apologizing for taking up space. It is someone new, someone who survived the darkness and came back sharper. "I have watched patients die," I say evenly. "I have stood by their beds. I have held their hands when their families could not make it in time. And I never once took their wallets." Patricia freezes. The breath catches in her throat. I drop my hands to my sides. I let them rest openly against the green fabric of my scrubs. The bright overhead lights of the courthouse illuminate the pale skin of my left wrist. The white, jagged scar is completely visible. I do not point to it. I do not try to hide it. I simply know it is there. It healed on its own. I healed on my own. I have been healing on my own for my entire life. Patricia stares at the scar. She looks back up at my face. The mask shatters entirely. Beneath the tailored blazer, beneath the perfect hair, beneath 30 years of insisting she was only trying to help, the absolute reality of her actions finally crushes her. Her attorney walks over and gently touches her elbow, guiding her back across the hallway. 30 minutes later, the settlement is signed on a wooden table outside the courtroom. The deed is fully restored to my name. My mother agrees to repay the $30,800 in monthly installments over the next 18 months. She signs a written statement acknowledging she exceeded her legal authority under the power of attorney. Nicole is ordered to vacate the premises within 60 days. I concede only one point: no criminal referral. I do not do it for Patricia. I do it for my father, who still cannot look me in the eye. I do it for Lily and Mason, who need a grandmother more than they need a lesson in justice. I do it for the part of my soul that refuses to be consumed by revenge. It is a bittersweet victory. There is no grand apology. There are no tears of reconciliation. My mother signs the papers without ever looking in my direction. Nicole cries quietly into a tissue. My father stands in the middle of the wide hallway, looking entirely lost, unsure of who he is supposed to follow out the door. There are just black signatures on white paper, and the echoing sound of their shoes walking away from me. 2 months later, the October air brings a sharp, crisp chill to the Tennessee Valley. I stand on the front porch of my house. I slide a brand new brass key into the deadbolt. I hired a locksmith to change every lock on the property yesterday morning. I turn the key. The heavy door swings open. The house is completely empty. Nicole and her family moved out 3 days ago. I step inside. My shoes tap loudly against the bright, newly installed hardwood floors. It is deeply ironic. I am walking on the very floors I am currently making my mother pay for. I walk through the empty rooms. The walls in the living room are painted a sterile, flat gray. The deep blue color I spent 2 weekends painting is gone entirely. The kitchen cabinets are bare. The air holds no scent of cooking, no smell of laundry detergent, no echoes of children laughing or playing in the hallway. The afternoon sun shines through the large front windows. It is the golden hour. Thick beams of yellow light cut across the room, illuminating thousands of tiny dust motes floating silently in the air. It smells of fresh paint and new wood. It is my house, but it does not feel like the house I remember. I sit down in the exact center of the empty living room floor. I cross my legs. I remember the very first day I bought this house. I sat on the cheap carpet in this exact spot, eating a slice of cold pizza from a cardboard box, and I felt a profound sense of rightness. I do not have pizza today. I do not feel that same simple triumph. I feel something different. It is heavier, but it is much more real. I look around the empty gray walls. It feels like space. It is a massive, quiet void that I can fill with absolutely anything I choose. For the very first time in my life, there is no one else here to tell me what to do with it. I think about my mother. I do not think about the woman in the courthouse hallway. I think about the woman standing in the bathroom 17 years ago, looking at my bleeding arm. "It will heal on its own," she said. She was right. It did heal. The scar healed. The bank accounts will heal. My body has healed. I have returned to the emergency room, working part-time shifts. The mortgage payments resume next month. I do not feel the urge to call her. I do not feel the need to check on my sister. And as I sit in the dust and the golden light, I realize the most important thing of all. I do not feel guilty about it. I am finally keeping something entirely for myself, and the guilt is completely gone. I reach into the front pocket of my bag. I pull out the small leather notebook. I open the worn cover. I turn to the front page, tracing my fingers over the faded blue ink my grandmother left behind. The house you buy will be the first thing that is truly yours. Do not let anyone take it. I take a pen from my pocket. I press the tip to the yellowed paper, right below her looping handwriting. 17 years later, I add my own words to the page. They tried. I got it back. I close the notebook. I place it gently on the new wooden floor. I lie back, resting my head against the hard wood, and look up at the blank white ceiling. The sunlight warms my face. The dust dances in the quiet air. For the first time in a very long time, the silence in the room is not a waiting room. I am not listening for footsteps. I am not bracing for an argument. The silence is simply silence, and I do not need anyone to say a single word.